Welcome to the Alison Howard podcast, where high-achieving women elevate their identity, expand what's possible, and create a life of true abundance. I'm Alison Howard. Let's dive in. Okay, today I want to talk about the amazing power of your mind and how to rewire it. It's going to be a little scientific, but it's going to be fun. So welcome back to the podcast if you're watching this on YouTube. Today, I want to talk to you about something that is exciting for me. I kind of geek out on this, but this is going to be very empowering for you. Um, and often this is underestimated. It's just not something that we think about or talk about all the time or often, but it is the extraordinary power of your own mind. So this is so empowering and liberating because we're not talking about your circumstances. We're not talking about your past. We're not talking about your current results. We're talking about your mind. Your mind is the very mechanism through which you interpret reality, right? You assign meaning to things because of your mind. You generate emotions. You make decisions because of your mind. And ultimately, you shape the direction of your life. So many women, we move through life, men and women, all of us, we move through life believing that thinking is fixed, that our mental patterns are simply the way things are. Did you hear that growing up? It's just the way things are. I heard that a little bit. Or that our reactions, our fears, our tendencies are just permanent aspects of our personalities. And that is not true. We know that modern neuroscience tells us something completely different. And interestingly, it's something that aligns beautifully with personal growth and transformational work. So your brain is malleable. What that means is you can actually move it and change it. Okay. It's adaptable. It's responsive. It is capable of change. And so this means that you're not locked in your current way of thinking or feeling or responding to life. Something that I once heard somebody who I cared very much say, this person struggled with alcoholism. And he used to say all the time, I just can't change. I just can't change. And I used to always tell him, yes, you can. If you can change your mind, you can change your life. And that is what we're going to be talking about today because your brain is not fixed. And for many years, scientists did believe that the brain became largely unchangeable after childhood and that your neural wiring that you developed early in life defined your cognitive and your emotional patterns permanently. But now we know that that's absolutely not true. The brain possesses something called neuroplasticity. And what that means is, to put it simply, is that your pathways, you have neural pathways in your brain, and they're constantly being shaped, they're being strengthened or weakened. They're being reorganized all the time based on your repeated thoughts, based on your emotional experiences and your behaviors. So, in other words, your brain is not static hardware, it is a living, adaptive system, and it reflects how you use it. So, every thought that you think repeatedly becomes easier to think again. And every emotional reaction that you rehearse over and over and over again becomes more automatic. Every mental pattern that you reinforce becomes even more deeply wired. And this is not a flaw in your design. It's actually a feature of your God-given biology, which is awesome. So once you understand this, change stops feeling like mystical, like it's something that's really hard to figure out. It actually starts to feel practical and very possible. I know it feels very possible for me. And so I want you to understand that this is something that you have some amount of control over, in fact, a very good amount of control over. And let's talk about how you're thinking actually creates your experience, your external experience. So your mind isn't just describing your life. You're not just thinking thoughts that describe your life. It's actively shaping your experience of life. So this is how it works. Your thoughts influence your emotions. Your emotions influence your nervous system. And your nervous system influences your behaviors and your perception, your confidence level, your sense of possibility. So two women can live in nearly identical circumstances, and yet they can experience entirely different realities based on how they are thinking, on how they are interpreting things in life, how they're anticipating things in life, how they're responding internally to things that happen in life. So, when we talk about changing your life, what we are actually truly talking about is changing the mental and emotional patterns through which you engage with life. And because the brain is plastic, those patterns are changeable. So here are some practical ways to rewire your mind. If you're thinking, "Whoa, this is way too science focused, Allison. How do I just change? How do I change my mind?" I'm going to tell you how to change your mind. You know, something funny my mom used to say. I don't know if she listens to this, but this has stuck with me since I was a kid. Is when I would ask her for things as like a little girl, "Mom, can I have this? Can I have that?" She would say no, 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 and then finally, when it was her final no, she would say, "I'm not going to change my mind like Madonna did." Now, I was a kid in the '80s. I have no idea what this reference is to, and I've asked her several times, "Mom, what did Madonna change her mind about?" Well, if you know the answer, leave it in the comments. I would love to know because she doesn't remember. But here's some practical ways to rewire your mind, okay? And this is, like, immediately applicable. You can start doing this today. After you listen to this, you can or watch this, you can go and start doing this because rewiring the mind is not some far off, abstract concept reserved for therapists or monks. It's something that you can begin practically doing now. It's something that you can participate in consciously through small, consistent practices. Remember, last week we talked about micro moments. So here are some small practices that you can start to infuse into your day. So the first one is probably very obvious. It's meditation. Guys, I cannot stress this enough. Meditation is the secret sauce. Be still. It says in the Bible, be still and know that I am God. How do you connect with source if you're always on the go, if you're never still? Meditation is not about just emptying the mind. It's about creating space between the stimulus, the stuff that's out there, and our response to it. It's the practice of observing thought rather than being unconsciously driven by it. So even 5 minutes of intentional stillness begins teaching your nervous system regulation. It begins teaching your nervous system presence and choice and awareness. And yes, what you will experience is what we call monkey brain. You're going to be sitting there trying to be still and be quiet. You're going to have all these different thoughts. That's okay. Let them come and go. Just observe them without judgment. Just sit there and observe them. And when it gets annoying, just come back to your breath. Just breathe in and breathe out. Focus on your breath. But meditation is the quickest way to change who you are being, which influences what you are doing, which then determines what you have, your results. Okay. It's the second way, visualization. Okay. I love visualization because I am a huge dreamer. I love imagination. And visualization is a way of rehearsing reality before it fully materializes, like externally. So the brain doesn't actually really know the difference. It has a hard time distinguishing the difference between what is vividly imagined and what is actually physically experienced. This is great news for my dreamers, and this is also great news for my non-dreamers. But if you have this gift of imagination, which is God-given, we're created in his image. So he is an imaginative creator, and we can imagine too. If you use your imagination, you can start to curate this internal world of amazing possibility before you ever experience it outside. At the time of this recording, the Olympics are happening. The Winter Olympics are happening in Milan. And many, I would say probably all of those athletes visualize themselves on their bobsled or on the ice or on the mountain, whatever it is that they're doing, and winning before they've actually done it. And it makes them so much more effective in their actual physical experience. So when you repeatedly imagine yourself as confident, as successful, as a calm person, as capable, as expansive, you are quite literally priming your neural pathways that are associated with those states. So what you're doing is, okay, let's say you want to be a public speaker and you have never been on stage before. And so if you so you don't have a groove in your brain that says a well-traveled pathway in your groove that is the public speaking groove, right? So it's scary. You haven't done it. It's way outside of your comfort zone. So what you could do is you could just sit and visualize yourself on stage, not looking at yourself from the audience, but as if you're on stage looking out at the audience. How you're moving on the stage, what you're wearing, what you're speaking about, how you're inspiring people, the emotional reactions on the faces of the viewers. You might be getting really sweaty right now if you have a fear of public speaking, but if this is something you really want to do, you visualizing this then starts to create the neural pathways that are associated with the state of public speaker. Okay. All right. The next way is journaling. So, journaling allows you to externalize internal narratives that often just kind of run around in the background unquestioned. So, when thoughts are written, they become visible. And when they become visible, they become editable. This is powerful. So, at the end of the day, here's a little exercise that you could do. A lot of my clients do this is they rewrite their day. So think about your day today. I don't know when you're listening to this, but let's say it's towards the end of the day. Maybe you're commuting home right now. And think about your day. Think about what went right in the morning, what went wrong in the morning, what did you enjoy, what did you not enjoy. Think about the midday. What did you eat for lunch? Did you like that? What conversations were you having? How did the morning go at work or at home or whatever it was that you're doing? Now think of the end of the day. How has that gone? Okay. Before you go to bed, take inventory of your day and journal it out. But journal it out as you're recalling it the way that you would have loved for it to go. So instead of getting that really crappy email that put you in a bad mood, then you sent off a reactive, email back, and now there's tension between you and Debbie or whatever it is. Think about how you would have rather that situation had gone instead and journal that out. So you're rewriting your day, you're editing your day. This is so effective because your brain is practicing future responses. Your brain is going to wake up tomorrow morning and look for ways to create the day that you have told it to create. So powerful. And then the last thing that you can do to start changing how you think, to rewire your brain, is gratitude. Gratitude it shifts attentional biases. The brain naturally scans for problems. It scans for threats. But gratitude does something different. It intentionally directs awareness towards having enough, towards sufficiency, towards progress, towards support. And over time, this practice reshapes perception itself. So when you are, for example, in a traffic jam and you're going to be late somewhere, it's very difficult to be grateful in that moment. But what you can do is you can say, perhaps I'm being protected from an accident. Or I am grateful that I have this extra time to do XYZ, to listen to this podcast, to, whatever it is. Look for ways to be grateful in all circumstances. It says that in the Bible, be grateful in all circumstances. There's always something you can be grateful for in any circumstance. It doesn't matter what it is. Look for those ways, and you're training your brain to constantly be looking for the good in situations. Plus, it's an attitude shifter. If you're just not feeling happy, this is something I used to always do with my kids when they were little children, is I would have them make a gratitude list. So they would have to go and write down 10 things that they were grateful for. And let me tell you how quickly that shifted their attitude because of the sufficiency part. They realize that what I have is enough. I actually have a lot to be grateful for. Okay, so let's talk about why these practices actually do change your reality. So these tools are powerful because they interrupt autopilot. We're all on autopilot all the time. And so these tools interrupt that. They foster an awareness. They soften these rigid neural loops that we have. They create new emotional experiences. They help us to expand. They help us to expand our identity. They help us to grow. So as your internal world reorganizes, your external world begins responding differently because you are perceiving and you're choosing and you're behaving from a different state of being. So you don't have to do all of those things every single day, all the time, but choose one. Choose one thing. Let me know in the comments. I would love to know. Let me know one thing that you're going to start working on this week. Maybe this week you're going to start a meditation practice for 10 minutes. That's all you need. 5 minutes. Shoot, start there. Maybe you're going to start visualization. Maybe you're going to start journaling. Maybe you're going to start practicing gratitude. Maybe you're going to start journaling out your gratitude. Kill two birds with one stone. That works too. In my own life, the most profound changes did not happen. They didn't begin with dramatic external shifts. That never happens, but it always happens with these perceived subtle internal practices. And I say perceived because we think these things are small and they really don't matter, which is why we don't do them. But working out 30 minutes a day, those little actions, they stack up, right? They compound. And so subtle internal practices will gradually alter how you relate to yourself, because I know that that's what happened in my situation. As I started doing these things, just little by little, and it started adding up to a lot. It altered how I related to myself, to my family, to the future that I was co-creating with God, and to my dreams, to what I believed was possible in my life. And small mental disciplines produced really large, exponential changes, experiential changes, all the changes. So I challenge you. I challenge you to do this in your own life and see how your life starts to change. So if this conversation resonates with you and you're ready to consciously participate in rewiring your thinking, you're changing your identity, rewiring your internal world, I want to invite you to join me live. This is going to be so great. I have a live Zoom event. It's a 3-day live Zoom event. It's an hour and a half each day. It's powerful. You're going to walk away so transformed on April 8th, 9th, and 10th. Okay. So together, what we're going to be exploring is belief. We're going to explore embodiment. We're going to explore mindset and the inner shifts that produce the outer transformation, because we all want the outside transformation. We want to look better. We want to feel better. We want to make more money. We want to have better relationships. We want to have better living circumstances, better vacations, experiences, all of those things. All of us want those things, right? But we have to shift the inside before we can actually produce the external transformation, before we can see the external results. Remember, it's who you are being that informs what you are doing, which then informs what you receive, what you have, your desired outcome. So your mind is not fixed. Your patterns are not permanent. This is such good news. Your future is not predetermined. You are participating in the shaping of your brain, which means the shaping of your reality every single day. So the question is not actually whether change is possible. The question is whether you are ready to engage with your mind as the powerful creative instrument that it truly is. So now I want you to go and be the woman that your future is waiting on. I can't wait to talk with you again next week. Until then, be blessed.